Welcome to the HR Tech Spotlight podcast. I'm Deanna Shimoda, CEO of Growth Mode Marketing. The HR technology market is crowded, and we know it can be hard to find the best software solutions for your business in the sea of sameness. On this podcast, we shine a spotlight on some of the best up-and-coming technology options out there. Check it out if you are interested in learning about new innovative solutions available in the market. And if you are with an HR tech company and interested in being considered for a guest spot, stay tuned for details at the end of the show. Hello and welcome to another episode of the HR Tech Spotlight. Today we are exploring Sprockets, a technology solution designed to help employers hire and retain great hourly workers. From comprehensive virtual interviews to AI-powered sourcing campaigns, Sprocket equips businesses with the tools required to reduce turnover, slash hiring costs, and win in the tumultuous labor market. Joining me to talk for this conversation is founder and CEO AJ Richichi. Welcome to the show, AJ.
No, thanks so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
So tell us about your background in the HR tech space.
Yeah, I think my background's a little unconventional compared to others. The start of Sprockets was actually in professional sports, where when I was in my dorm room, had this idea of using personality modeling to help my New York Jets finally beat the New England Patriots. So back in those days, it was always just so amazing to me, and still is today, that despite NFL and Major League Baseball teams having seemingly unlimited resources, they still make the wrong draft picks. And so we started to build algorithms and different systems and technologies in a dorm room, really, to be able to predict success and help a few teams win real championships, which was amazing. And as we started to scale the idea and scale the business side of things, we realized, hey, professional sports, small world, business, big world. And our technology at its core, it's selection software, and is very good at being able to predict behaviors and performance and things like that, can be applied to the workforce. And it's been about 6-7 years since that day, and we haven't looked back. And over that time, we've just been completely obsessed with hiring, primarily within the hourly workforce.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I've never had any guest come on and say that it actually started with that kind of angle. So I love it. Tell us a little more about what Sprockets does.
Yeah, so we are technology that helps hourly employers hire great people. So at our core, our longest standing best technology is our matching technology. Let's say that you're a 5-location restaurant, or you manage a call center, or you manage a small ship warehouse. What Sprockets would do is it's software that you would screen your top performing people with a very brief 3-question survey. And then we would compare all incoming applicants via that same survey to your best performing people and give you predictive models of who's to stay and who's to go. And over time, we've built on that core matching technology to also have sourcing tools, additional screening tools beyond personality, like background checks and I-9s, all the way to a virtual recruiter that can do your entire hiring process for you without a need for human involvement.
So what are some of the big challenges or problems that you see facing HR departments today that Sprockets can really help with?
So the hourly workforce is where our business specializes. So I'll speak to that. So more than half of America punches a time clock. And in this space, there's about 150% turnover for hourly workers. And it costs about, according to SHRM, $5,000 to hire, train, and replace these hourly workers. So typically a customer that engages with us employs hourly workers and is challenged with turnover specifically. So they're tired of the traditional, let's get people in, let's run them through our old school process and get those same high turnover results, and instead want to use not only speed and automation, but also precision with matching and assurances to hire the right people. And over time, our customers have been able to articulate tremendous gains in this area, where customers that come to Sprockets usually see an increase of 90-day retention of about 40%. We speed up hiring by about 90% in some high volume situations, and aim to provide as many tools for recruiters to make their job easier, reduce the tedious tasks they have day in and day out, and allow them to do what they do best, which is spend time with applicants, truly get to understand them, and then ultimately hire the right ones.
Probably no surprise to you, the HR tech market is very crowded and there's a lot of options for buyers out there. What
Yep.
would you say is Sprocket's unique point of view or differentiation in the market compared to some of the competitors?
Yeah, I always preface this with saying there's a lot of really good platforms out there, and we've actually designed our system to be able to work with whatever you're currently using today. So if you're using your HRIS, like your payroll system, all the way to posting and distributing jobs, you can add Sprockets to it. If you're using a new age applicant tracking system that has chat bots and these different automations, all those different things, you can add Sprockets to it. If you're using just traditional job boards like the makeshift ATS and payroll features therein, you can use Sprockets to that. So I think first and foremost, we want to be seen as steroids that you can ingest or inject into any hiring process to make hiring more efficient and more accurate and provide more quality for your recruiters without ripping and replacing whatever current solution you're currently using. Because we know intimately, and I'm sure your listeners know, how challenging and daunting of a task it truly is to upheave another system, because there's been so much turnover in that case as well, and have to train all the recruiters and general managers and hiring teams something new. So I think providing tremendous lift, not requiring a lot of new training, and yielding a ton of efficiencies is really where Sprockets takes pride in.
How should leaders think about managing today's workforce?
Humanize the hourly workforce. I actually just wrote a book. It's on track to be a bestseller. It comes out June 18th. It's available on Target and Amazon and Barnes & Noble with Forbes and the Chief People Officer of Inspired Brands. And that's the entire topic of the book. Is I think a lot of times we have a tendency in white collar jobs to look down on the blue collar and hourly workforce. Yet all of our processes and our technologies and our people are really focused on getting the next VP of marketing, right? But when it comes to hiring warehouse workers or drivers, it's done not all the way. I think the people skip steps and don't go to the degree they do with white collar workers to make sure that those people feel welcome at the company and in the hiring process. And from my really humble opinion, and I think that actually the numbers suggest it, is there's actually a better gain of mastering the hourly workforce turnover than the few instances that you'll have in the white collar workforce that you might have. So I think flipping the switch, really encouraging people to treat the hourly workforce as beyond numbers and cogs in the machine, humanize them early, and see the benefits from a business accordingly.
That's great. And we can certainly put a link in the show notes to your book.
Oh,
So
thank you.
glad you mentioned it. What type of companies are the perfect fit for Sprockets?
Yeah. So right now, as an emerging technology company, we don't have all the resources in the world to do everything, right? So despite us being able to, I think, really help impact hiring drivers or hiring warehouse workers or shipyards or whatever, because of resource constraint right now, we service typically 4 major markets. First, this quick service restaurants and just restaurants in general. So that's like the Burger Kings and the McDonald's and the KFCs of the world. Second is C-stores and gas stations, which ironically oftentimes do have a quick service restaurant inside of it. Third is home health care facilities. So those that hire at great volume caregivers and hospice care and front staff workers. And fourth is call centers. It should be no surprise that call centers require a lot of really hard work, just as these other roles do. And despite being more white collar than the deskless jobs, actually have a 300 to 400% turnover because pay is very low and the work is more complicated than others.
What impact have you seen organizations that you have worked with experience through Sprockets?
Yeah. So I think the immediate one is an immediate increase in applicant flow. So when one of the cool features about Sprockets and our AI is the day that you sign up for Sprockets, we ask for an export of all of your past applicants. So this is somebody that applied. These are people that applied 10 years ago, 10 months ago, 10 weeks ago, 10 days ago. And usually that is surprisingly very dense, right? Like we have people who are uploading lists with millions of people, believe it or not. And you import that into Sprockets, we do a little bit of filtering. And then what our AI chatbot does, her name is Jojo, is she will reach out to all 1 million of those people one to one, getting to know them and see if they're still interested in that role. And if not, what other roles within the company, now that they might be a little bit older, might be a good fit for them. And I think practically, we all want to go back and call our candidate graveyard, as we lovingly call it. But when you have a recruiting team of 2, you have 10,000 past applicants. A human can't do that one-to-one just based on time constraints, right? So leveraging the technology to do the tedious, hard work to qualify and do a pre-screen. And if the person is a good fit, what Jojo actually does is she'll schedule the in-person interview with the recruiter like the next day. I think the immediate lift people get is an increase in applicant flow. And then over time, and the only reason why I say over time is turnover is typically measured on an annualized basis, or retention is measured on a 90-day basis. So as we hit those thresholds, we're able to articulate reduction of turnover. You have to make fewer hires and therefore significantly less spend across the board to improve your customer experience, you as a business, and improve employment engagement and retention overall.
With your AI, Jojo, what's the candidate experience like on their end?
Yeah, I'll have to share you a screen, or if you can go to our website, it's just sprockets.ai/Jojo. But imagine getting a text from a job you applied to maybe a year ago. It's like a recruiter says, "Hey, AJ, was just thinking about you. You applied to our job in the past. How much do you currently make an hour?" And I would put, "Oh, I make $18 an hour." And then she knows if the job that she has in the queue offers more, she'll pitch that job. So be like, "Oh, we just opened a new job for $22 an hour. Are you interested in learning more?" And then if you say yes, then it initiates a in conversation, and it feels very human-like. It's scary at times how close it can be, but engages in the conversation as if it's a real bio, like a person recruiter, and brings them through a few screening questions, like, are you eligible to work in the US still? Has anything major changed since your last application? And then if you check, then Jojo will ask, "Hey, seems like you're a good fit. When can you come in for an interview? Here's the schedule. We'd love to get you in tomorrow or the next day." So go from getting a text to scheduling an interview in about 90 seconds. And from the recruiter's perspective, they just sit back, can cross their arms and wait until their calendar gets filled up by Jojo.
So from the candidate perspective, it feels like a real person is engaging with them and having a conversation, and really it's all automated to help the recruiting team.
And I think that's a key distinction here, right? Is it's subtle, but it's important, is the hourly workforce is very seldom recruited, right? So those in the white collar workforce, you're used to getting messages on LinkedIn being like, "Hey, I got this awesome job." Or like your cousin at a cookout, "Hey, we're hiring over here. Do you need a position in sales?" You have a group of people that historically and systemically have applied to 30 jobs every 6 months or so. And it's not fun, it's not engaging. It's just like part of the grind of being in bottom America, right? And I think it's sad, but I think it's very true. And I think what Jojo does, why I think she has such high conversion rates on those lists, is this might be the first time really ever that somebody got recruited or felt special that something or someone was reaching out to them. And I don't know about you, but that's just for me a fantastic, amazing way to start a relationship rather than you have to apply my job on this job board and then you have to go through this tedious process, right? It just sets a tone that, again, I think humanizes the hourly workforce and leads to a really strong employee experience.
Yeah, that's really cool. So what is your future vision for Sprockets?
Yeah, I think I want to be a place where hourly workers can come and find meaningful tools to get great employment, but also navigate other challenges that they have in their life. Especially as we were writing this book with Forbes, we started to interview hourly workers en masse. And what we discovered is that beyond work, these are groups of people that have financial literacy issues, they have crippling debt, that's credit card debt's at an all-time high, school debt is at an all-time high, very unclear as to what health insurance packages they should take. And with inflation, rising costs of rent, it's very hard to be in this group. And as I've scaled our company, we've always placed an emphasis on the candidate experience because from a business perspective, I feel like if we have the candidates, the companies will just come naturally, right? Like companies always need a great community of people, right? But as we continue to scale, it's about building out a better experience for candidates, give them resources to navigate the trials and tribulations of lower class America. And as a result, build the volume we need to be able to really support the businesses that are on our platform today and into the future.
So for companies that are looking at a solution like Sprockets or similar, what are things that they should consider and take into account as they're evaluating their options?
It's a really good question. I would be skeptical if I was a buyer around what's AI and what's not. And I actually talk about this in the book too. Companies are being rewarded right now by venture dollars and customers because of AI. If you say that you are AI, you will sell more, like categorically, right? You will raise more venture capital, you get more excitement. So I think that there's a unnatural temptation for companies to mislabel their technology and lead people to think that they're using specific tools when they're not. And I saw this stat, it was only about 24% of HR professionals use it today. I believe that was from SHRM. And I saw on another website, so not the same study, but it's like 91% of companies want to add AI by 2026. So when I hear that, I'm like, okay, the market is going to aggressively pursue as KPIs for their business AI-powered solutions. And you have a cohort of customers or technology platforms that may not be true AI, right? And I don't think it's like cloak a day or people are outwardly trying to commit fraud or anything like that. But I do think that if your business has a true appetite for adding artificial intelligence or deep learning into your models, I'd stay skeptical that every single pitch you hear is in fact fulfilling that direction from your boss.
I think that's really good advice because if you walk the floor at any HR conference these days and you see the vendors, almost everybody is pushing AI. And it's a really interesting time in the HR tech market. But I think there are certainly vendors out there who have built their product around AI as a basis of it. And then there are the vendors out there who had a product and were like, "Ooh, we need to add AI," and they're trying to plug it in. And I think there's probably a different user experience when you step back and think about it, about the one that was natively built with AI versus the ones that are trying to add it in on a product that was already built.
Yeah, and I think we have a really good idea of why we're starting to see this phenomenon. And I'll just use when I first hit the market with Sprockets, I remember going to several HR events and talking about AI. And this was like before AI was a craze, before ChatGPT, and this is like when Watson on Jeopardy was airing. And a lot of those leaders in that room that I was talking to still associated AI with Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Terminator, right? And I remember very vividly standing up and starting the presentation with, hey, how many people here used AI in the last 10 minutes? No one raised their hand. I was like, how many people here used AI in the last 6 hours? Nobody raised their hand. I said, okay, crazy. How many people have used AI in the last year? No one had raised their hand. And I was like, okay, can I get a hand? Somebody raised their hand of if you used ways to get to this meeting. Half the room went up. I said, okay, how many people here used AI, or how many people here logged into Facebook today? And like the rest of the room put their hand up. And back then it was almost like the large businesses and the best technology providers on earth were using AI in secret, right? They didn't want to market AI because that's such a big PR problem that they had somehow made this room believe that no one was using AI and AI was awful. It's here to take our jobs, like all these things. Yet they were all adopting it in secret. And I remember the reactions I got after weren't like, oh, yeah, you're great, AJ. Oh, that was such a good move. It was like, you're wrong. Like, they don't do this. Or people like doing like terms of service, sending to me after being like, I don't think this is quite it, but this language is ambiguous. But now I bet you if I walked into that same room, for all the reasons you just mentioned around like going to conventions and stuff, these HR leaders particularly are starting to be like, AI forward, and it's gotten more normalized. And I think it's the expectation now is that if you don't adopt it, you in fact will fall behind. So it's just been like amazing, magnificent art that I've just been like full and had a lot of challenges because of it.
Yeah, I can see that. And I feel like in the last couple of years, like it's really been elevated. And you're absolutely right. It's not like some of these companies didn't already have it. It just now it's front and center. And I could tell you, like, you're probably like episode 40, 41. In the last 6 months, I've talked to a lot of CEOs, founders, and marketing leaders. Almost every one of them talk about AI in their product now. That went to happen 2 years ago. So it's really been an interesting time.
Yeah.
So AJ, what final thoughts do you want to leave our audience with?
Oh gosh, what final thoughts? I think that largely, and I've said this for the last 5 years, and I'll say it for the next 5. Those that adopt AI will be secure in their jobs, will optimize their output, and help their companies win. Those that defy AI for the sake of defying AI, new technology and advancement and progress and all those things, you may be more comfortable today, but the world will move on beyond you, right? And your business as a result will suffer because your competitors and your peers will move faster to adopt. And that's when you're in the danger zone. So a lot of times people ask me, hey, is AI gonna replace recruiters or HR? I said, AI is gonna replace people that refuse to use AI. But those that adopt it and find ways to leverage it in their day-to-day and teach their children about how to do it are going to be in a far better position long-term.
Where can our listeners go to learn more about Sprockets?
Yeah, just Sprockets.ai, and there's a ton of resources there. We pride ourselves on our thought leadership. So there's like hubs of knowledge base articles, of ebooks on how to reduce turnover, the book itself. We have our own podcast called Hourly. We bring on leaders to talk about hiring that group specifically, and a ton of other resources that hopefully you can sink your teeth into.
Excellent. We'll be sure to put the links in the show notes. AJ,
Perfect.
thank you for joining me on the show today.
No, thanks for having me. Really enjoyed it.
Great. For those listening, don't forget to check out Sprockets and be sure to join us again next time as we dig into another innovative HR technology company shaping the world of work. Thanks for listening to this episode of the HR Tech Spotlight Podcast, where we showcase some of the best up-and-coming HR technology options in the market. If you are an HR tech company leader who would like to be considered for a guest spot on this program, please contact me via growthmodemarketing.com or reach out to me, Deanna Shimoda, on LinkedIn. And if you found this show informative, subscribe, connect with us on social media, and leave a review. This is Deanna with Growth Mode Marketing signing off. Thanks for listening. We hope you'll tune in again next time.